Hello. In this first video in my grammar series, I'm going to be talking about the parts of speech. So, in the same way that a doctor needs to know the parts of the body, a language student needs to know the parts of speech. So, can you imagine if a doctor said, "Today we're going to operate on that thing, in your chest"? It would be ridiculous, right? If the doctor didn't have the vocabulary to describe the parts of the body. So if you know the parts of speech, which are the different types of words in a sentence, then it's going to make talking about grammar way easier. We need to know the names and jobs of the different types of words in a sentence so we can talk about them. So let's jump right into that. Let's learn about the names and jobs of the different parts of speech, the words in sentences. So probably the most important part of speech is the verb, and a verb is an action or a state. So if we look at this picture here, there's a woman running, and an example of a sentence would be, she runs every day. So the word in that sentence, that's the verb, is runs, and we can see her doing it. So that's an example of an action. We could also say she is a woman, and in that sentence, the verb is the word is. So we can't see her being a woman, it's a state. So that's an example of a verb that's a state. She is a woman. Okay, then nouns are also important parts of speech. Nouns are people, places, or things. So an example of a sentence with some nouns in it is, the pencils are in the container. So the word pencils, those are things. You can see them in the container there. And then the word container, that's another thing. And so that's another noun. Another important part of speech is the adjective, and adjectives describe nouns. So we already know that a noun is a person, place, or thing. So adjectives are the words that describe those people, places, or things. So if I say I have a pink dog, the word dog is a noun, it's a thing, and then the word pink describes the dog. Next we have adverbs. Adverbs describe verbs, and you can see the name of the part of speech is adverb. So that's how I always remember that part of speech. It's got the clue right in the name of the part of speech, adverb. Adverb's primary job is to describe verbs. They also can be used to describe adjectives and other adverbs. So if we look at the sentence, he drives his car very fast, the adverb that describes the verb is the word fast. So it's saying how he drives, in what way he drives. He drives fast. Another adverb we could use would be quickly. And then the word very is also an adverb. So you can see there that that adverb is describing another adverb. How does he drive? He drives fast. And how fast? Very fast. We could also say it's a very red car. So in that case, the adverb would be describing an adjective. So adverbs, just remember their main job is to describe verbs, but they can also be used to describe adjectives and other adverbs. And then finally, we have prepositions. And prepositions show direction, location, or time. So here we have a picture of a dog and a cat together. And we would say the cat is behind the dog. So behind is the preposition, and it's describing the position of the cat in relation to the dog. And we could say the dog is in front of the cat. So in front of, that's an example of a phrasal preposition. Okay, so let's see if you can think of other examples of parts of speech. So nouns, remember they are people, places, or things. And some more examples of people, places, or things would be teacher, book, idea, leg, door, job, wind, apple, Canada, dog, coffee, water, food, Tuesday, phone, family, tree. And let's see if you can come up with another example of a person, place, or thing. And whenever you're trying to think of examples, I recommend that you think of your own life. And so think of a person, place, or thing that's important to you in your life. Okay, verbs. Verbs, remember, are actions or states. So other examples of verbs might be think, say, do, be, watch, go, write, read, walk, cook, sleep, eat, know, come, look, seem, have, run, sit, work, speak. So try to think of a verb that's important to you, an action or a state that's important to you. All right, adjectives. Adjectives, do you remember what they do? Adjectives describe nouns. So other examples of adjectives would be beautiful, as in a beautiful day, or cold, like a cold drink, or tall, like a tall person, warm, interesting, sad, happy, smart, different, weird, bright, rich, sick, healthy, bored, hopeful. So try to think of an adjective that's important to you, and you'll probably need to think of a noun to go along with it to make it more meaningful. Okay, next one, adverb. I hope you remember the trick for knowing what that part of speech does in the sentence. Do you remember? Adverbs describe verbs, as in how or in what way an action happened. So nicely is another example of an adverb. How did she ask? She asked nicely. Politely, quickly. How did he walk? He walked quickly. Slowly. So are you noticing a lot of these words end in ly? Easily, very, really, mostly, loudly, softly, always, already, ago, unfortunately, to. These are all examples of adverbs. So a lot of them end in ly, but not all of them. And they are usually used to describe verbs, but they can also be used to describe adjectives or other adverbs, as in he walked very quickly, or the sky is very blue. Okay, so try to think of an adverb that has personal meaning for you. I'll give you a hint. Usually a lot of them end in ly. Okay, and then finally prepositions such as to, in, of, for, with, about, at, on, from, between, into, during, including, until, against, off, beside, near, under, above. Think if you can think of another word that indicates time or position or direction. Okay, so I don't want to give you the idea that these are the only parts of speech. There are many others, but these are probably the most important ones that we use all the time. And I want to draw special attention to verbs. And so the reason why I want to draw your attention to them is because verbs are really the heart of every sentence. And what I mean by that is that they communicate the most important information in the sentence. Think about it. When we tell a story, everyone wants to know what happened and when it happened. If you don't have an action, you don't really have a story. So the fastest way to improve our communication is to improve our verbs, because they are what drive every story. So if you improve your tenses, if you improve your vocabulary to include more verbs, then that's going to go a long way to improving your language abilities. So now let's practice identifying the parts of speech. So we know the different types of words and we know their jobs, right? That's what we learned today. So we're just going to be looking at those 5 different parts of speech that we learned, and we're going to try and decide which of these words in the sentence are which parts of speech. So here's the sentence. The student quickly ate a large meal in their car. So remember what I said, that the verb is the most important part of the sentence. So try to think, which word is the verb? So a verb is an action or a state. So which of these words here is an action or a state? I hope you guessed ate. Okay, so that's the action. That's our verb, our past tense verb. And whenever you have a verb, there has to be someone or something that is doing that action. So who or what is eating? Well, that's going to be our noun, and that is the student. So remember, nouns are people, places, or things. So what's a student? A student is a person. So we know that's a noun because it is a person, place, or thing. We know ate is a verb because it's an action. And then we might say, well, what did the student eat? The student ate what? What thing did they eat? Well, they ate a meal. So that's another noun. Remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. So a meal is a noun. And then what would we want to know next? We probably want to know where they ate the meal. Well, they ate it in. So that's our preposition showing the location. In, inside. And inside what? Because after a preposition, we always have a noun. And so in their car. So nouns are people, places, or things. A car is a thing. We know that's a noun. And then, how did they eat? In what way did they eat? Quickly. So that's describing the verb. Adverbs describe verbs. And then finally, what are we missing? We're missing the adjective, which is describing a noun. And which noun is it describing? The meal. So what kind of meal? A large meal. So yeah, there are some little words here like the and there. We didn't learn about those in today's lesson. Those are other parts of speech that we'll learn another day. But if you've learned today about those 5 most important parts of speech, then you're off to a good start. Okay, so in summary, the parts of speech are the different types of words that are in a sentence. And if we know the parts of speech, we can talk about grammar ideas and learn language better. So if we have that vocabulary, we're going to be able to learn English much more easily. And so what were those parts of speech we learned about? We learned about verbs, which are actions or states. We learned about nouns, which are people, places, or things. We learned about adjectives, which describe nouns. We learned about adverbs, which describe verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. And we learned about prepositions, which show direction, location, or time. Okay, so thank you for listening. We're off to a good start, and I hope you feel more comfortable now with that term, parts of speech. It means the vocabulary that you need to talk about grammar.